All right, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and in this video, I'm going to discuss a silly atheist debater who tried to redefine what the word Almighty means in regards to God. Um, he tried the nonsense claim of can God make a stone too big to lift and then lift it anyway? And I told him that that is a nonsense question, and that by no means disproves the almightiness of God. For example, if God did in fact make a stone too big to lift and then somehow lifted it anyway, the atheist would claim that God was lying when he said the stone was too big to lift. On the other hand, if God failed to perform that feat just to impress the atheist would then call God a liar anyway, saying that God must not be almighty because the atheist is using an irrational definition of the word almighty. He's using a definition of the word almighty, which means that God could do anything that you could hypothesize, which is insanity. All right. I told him that the definition of almighty is the greatest conceivable self consistent being. All right. Is what almighty means, not the greatest stupidity that you could propose or hypothesize. All right. Is what I was trying to explain to him. And so, for example, the reason God has mercy on us is because He has love. If He did not have love and mercy, He would only be able to see us with righteousness and judgment. And then, because we are evil and less than perfect, we would all be punished to the maximum extent of the law, which means we'd all go to hell and would die lost. But because God is in fact loving and merciful, He very rarely punishes anybody, at least in this life. I mean, unless you live on the coast of Louisiana or Florida, you never get hit by hurricanes. And unless you live in Oklahoma, you never get hit by tornadoes. So, you know what I'm saying? Something like that. Not exactly, but that's the general principle. That's your choice to live in a high risk area that's just being damaged by natural law. It's got nothing to do with God punishing you. All right. So, the reason you can reason out, for example, that homosexuality is a sin, regardless of the fact this might get deleted for hate speech. That's not hate speech. All right. You can reason out for the fact that God created you male and female, some of us with penises and some of us with vagina, and that you're supposed to procreate with the opposite gender. All right. You can reason that out by sane form of logic. Um. So you can reason out the truth of certain things just by the physical evidence, even without a plaque tattooed to your forehead and behind saying "Thou shalt" or "Thou shalt not." All right. The cool thing about the Ten Commandments is you can reason those out from the silver rule and the golden rule, the law of love, basically. The Ten Commandments are derivable from the concept of love. Thou shalt not commit adultery. If you loved your spouse, you wouldn't cheat on them. If you loved somebody else, you wouldn't cheat on them with their spouse. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, obviously. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Women falsely accusing men of rape. They should go to prison for the same time the man would have gone to prison if he was guilty. You know? What's thou shalt not covet. All right, so that's the sixth one that's derivable from the silver rule. All right, so if you obey the silver rule, you automatically, if you really obey the silver rule, you automatically obey those six of the Ten Commandments. Um, so the love of God and the humility and the mercy of God actually limits his other attributes. It prevents him from being evil. He cannot lie because he's self-consistent and he's loving and truthful, so he cannot lie. So this atheist with this nonsense definition of almightiness is about like a previous one I debated a long time ago, who was saying that a true almighty being could both exist and not exist at the same time, which is also a lie and is complete nonsense. You see, there the atheists don't have a rational definition of what God or almighty is, so then they try to debunk an irrational definition. That's called a straw man argument, by the way. In reality, they know there's a God because God would be unjust if he did not reveal himself to them. All right. If he did not reveal himself to them and then sent them to hell anyway, that would be unjust. So a just God would reveal himself to them and prevent them from dying in ignorance of his very existence. So it tells you in the Bible, that's one thing the Christians got right. It tells you in the Bible that unbelievers in God are without an excuse because God reveals himself to everyone. So when they claim not to believe in God, they are in fact lying about their own beliefs. And I've caught them in lies about their own beliefs. I debated a homosexual atheist one time, or an agnostic, whatever he called himself. And at the end of the debate, I asked him, I said, if God himself appeared to you suddenly one day and told you that your lifestyle of homosexuality was a sin, what would you do then? He responded, and I quote, I would tell God to go fuck himself, end quote. And then he declared that he was becoming an atheist instead of an agnostic, now that I recall. Because I proved to him that homosexuality was wrong, but I further proved to him that he was willfully rejecting God knowingly. So he went ahead and became an atheist. Instead of accepting God, he rejected God totally and became an atheist. That's your choice. If you're that stupid that you would rather go to hell than worship God, and that's even the wrong way of looking at that. You're supposed to be good for goodness sake. You're not supposed to look at goodness as a way to get out of hell. Because if you are, you're missing the point, which unfortunately most Christians are missing the point. They think goodness is a way to get out of hell, and they think salvation is just a way to get out of hell. And that's why they worship Jesus, because they think Jesus saved them from hell. Jesus didn't save you from a damn thing. You ought to look up Rabbi Tovia Singer. Jesus can't save you. He's dead. The only person that can save you is Almighty God, the real Almighty God. Whose name is Yahweh. That's correct. The Hebrew word Yahweh just means the Lord.